Good morning, Baba. Can you hear me clearly? I'm just testing my mic.
Morning, colleague. Yeah, you are clear, colleague. You are audible.
Okay, thank you. And you'll be giving me sharing rights to be able to share the screen, or are you going to
Definitely.
be?
No. I'll give you the sharing rights, colleague.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, colleagues.
Good morning, Honorable Adams.
How are you, Chair?
I'm fine, and how are you?
I'm also fine. Compliments for the new year to you and the other members on the group.
Same to you.
Chairperson, yes, I just wanted to inform you that I'm on the road and I
Okay.
might have challenges with network. So please bear with me
No
if
problem.
I go out of network.
No
But
problem.
I will log in every time when they kick me out.
Okay. No, please travel safely, and I don't think our meeting will be too long. It is just to bring everybody up to speed with the developments around the NYDA and our program. But do travel safely and just keep logging back in if you can.
Okay, I'll do so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good morning, Chair.
Hello, Honorable Spees. How are you?
I'm very well. Yourself?
Very well. Good to see you.
Looking bright and beautiful.
You as well. Thank you. Yeah, Durban is so hot. It's extremely hot. It was about 38 degrees yesterday. We are suffering.
Cape Town is 34 today.
Recording in progress.
It's so hot everywhere. Honourable members, I think it's exactly 10 o'clock. I think it's time for us to start our meeting. Honourable members and our support staff, I would like to take this opportunity just to welcome all of you to our first meeting of 2025. I have already wished all of you a happy 2025, but I hope you had a wonderful time with your families and in your constituencies. And I hope you are all well rested for the hard work that lies ahead that we have to do in the service of our nation, serving our constituencies and holding to account the executive. So I hope you are well rested and hope you are ready for all the work that we will be doing in this first term. The purpose of today's meeting is really an admin meeting. It is to bring you up to speed with regards to the changes around our program with regards to the NYDA. We will also be considering our first term program, and we will just discuss some issues around the sanitary dignity program and how we plan to do oversight in the first term around this issue. But I think also I want to take this opportunity to just welcome our new member. I saw that we've got Honourable Mkonto from the EFF present. Honourable Mkonto replaces Honourable Mamkaula and will now be the main member representing the EFF. So we wish to welcome our new member, and Honourable Member, I hope you will participate fully in this portfolio committee, and we look forward to your contributions. And maybe if you're online and you just want to greet all of us, you are welcome to do so now.
Thank you, Chair.
Welcome. Thank you so much. Honourable members, in front of you is our agenda for this morning. I think I just want to ask Mr. Dumizweni, you are online. Do we have any apologies for this morning?
Good morning, Chair. Good morning to honourable members and colleagues. No, Chair, we haven't received any apology. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. So, honourable colleagues, in front of us is our agenda for this morning. It's our opening and welcome. It's our apologies. We will then consider the adoption of our first term program, committee program. We will do the consideration of public commentary on the shortlisted candidates to fill the vacancies on the NYDA Board. And that will be done by Ms. Kashifa Abrams. From there, we will consider a report, a state security and HR report. Also with regards to the verifications of qualifications of the shortlisted candidates to fill vacancies on the NYDA Board. We will also ask, and that will be done by Mr. Dumizweni, and Ms. Abrams will speak to us, its consideration of the Sanitary Dignity Program questionnaire that we want to circulate. We will adopt our minutes, if there are any minutes. I don't know if they were circulated, Mr. Dumizweni, and then closure. So can I just ask if anybody is willing to adopt our agenda for this morning, and a seconder? Honourable members, I'll take hands. Honourable Kanile. Shabango.
Good morning, Honourable Chairperson, and good morning to colleagues. I would like to take this opportunity and adopt the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honourable Kanile. I see the hand of Honourable Shabango. Welcome, Honourable Shabango.
Good morning, Chair and honourable members. I want to second the adoption of the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you so much, honourable members. Honourable Mr. Dumizweni, can we please move to item 1 and just flight the draft first parliamentary program for this term? Well, our program for this term, and then I'll just speak to that. Okay. Can you just enlarge it a little bit so that we can see clearly, please, Mr. Dumizweni? Are you able to do that? Honourable members, while we just wait for Mr. Mdumizweni to enlarge the size of the program, I wish to apologise to all honourable members because, Honourable Kanyile, your hand is still up? Or is it a legacy hand? Okay. Honourable members, I wanted to just apologise to all of you. When we left in December to go on our constituency break, I had informed honourable members that we would meet in Johannesburg at the end of January, which is this week, to start our process around interviewing the candidates to serve on the NYDA board. I had done so at the time thinking that it would be a cost-cutting exercise for Parliament or a cost-saving exercise for Parliament, because most of our candidates are from Johannesburg and some members do reside in Johannesburg. So I had thought that financially it would make sense for the Portfolio Committee to conduct its interviews in Johannesburg. Unfortunately, what since transpired is that firstly, we obviously needed accommodation, which goes without saying, but we needed to also consider other financial implications, such as the fact that we needed to take protection services with us. We also needed to take the audio-visual staff from Parliament with us. And in the end, it was no longer a cost-saving exercise. So I wanted to apologise to members for the change in plans. I will speak to where we will now accommodate the interviews. And I also just wanted to assure members that when we had initially decided to have these interviews at the end of January, our work would have been completed in the first week of February, but we would only have had an opportunity to table our report to the National Assembly during the first week of March. Because as we know, the first sitting of Parliament is the opening of Parliament. And from there, we've got 1 week of debates, followed by the budget. And then there's a constituency week. And then when we return to Parliament, it will be March. So we would only have been able to table our report in March. And with the current timeframes, which I will table to you now, we will still be able to meet the timeframe of having a report ready for the National Assembly during the first week of March. So, honourable colleagues, in front of you is our first term programme. So today we are meeting, as we have discussed already, we've approved our agenda. Just move down. Next week, we will be receiving a briefing by the CGE, and that will be on their progress report. It will be a progress report or a research report that they've done on learner pregnancies. I think all of us should have seen that during the December period, a lot of focus was placed by the media on the fact that we had seen again such a high rise or such a high instances of learner pregnancies or teenage pregnancies. So we've asked the Commission for Gender Equality to come and talk to us about the research report that they've done on learner pregnancies and the actual progress or implementation after they've completed that report. So the implementation of recommendations in this regard. We will also talk to the CGE, or we'll engage with the CGE on their second and third quarterly reports. And that's next week, Tuesday. It will be on the Zoom platform. Please move down, Mr. Mdumizweni. Then on Tuesday, the 11th, will be an in-person meeting at Parliament. And this will be for us to engage with the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, again on their second and third quarterly reports. We will also then get a briefing on the establishment of the National Council on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide. And we will also ask our department to brief us on the country report that will be submitted to the CSW on the review of the implementation of the Beijing Declaration and Platform of Action. Now, honourable members, the next two meetings, Tuesday 18 and the week thereafter, we are now extending our oversight, monitoring and evaluation responsibilities. We have discussed this before, that we wanted to call other departments. And our first meeting then on the 18th of February will also be an in-person meeting. We have invited the department, or we will invite the Department of Basic Education to come and talk to us about the implementation of the Sanitary Dignity Programme, learner pregnancies, and the exclusion from the education system of children with disabilities. That's Tuesday the 18th. Just move down. Then, oh, go up, please. Yeah, Tuesday the 18th. Then from the week of the 24th to the 28th of February, it's now the week, that is a constituency week, so there's no National Assembly sittings. That week, we will then set aside honourable members in Cape Town to conduct our NYDA interviews. On the 4th, I want to also just make it clear that the National Assembly program for this first term is a little bit different in that if you look at the program, you will see that the 4th of March, the 11th of March, and the 18th of March, the National Assembly starts with 10 o'clock sittings. So it means we cannot have meetings on those 3 Tuesdays. But we still have to get the work going in terms of the establishment of the National Council Against Gender-Based Violence and Femicide. So we've allocated 2 slots, virtual slots, from 9 till 10 on the 4th and on the 11th for us to get a report and also to consider the advertisement that will go out. Just move down. And then on the 25th of March, we will be getting a briefing, or we will invite the Department of Social Development to come and talk to us, again, on the Sanitary Dignity Program, a report on the funding crisis around NGOs and MPOs who look after women, youth, and persons with disabilities. And from there, honourable members, we will leave together and we will conduct an oversight visit to KwaZulu-Natal. In KwaZulu-Natal, again, we will be oversighting the CGE, the NYDA and their programs around shelters, police stations. Again, we will be oversighting the exclusion of children with disabilities from the education system. We will be oversighting the Sanitary Dignity Program, amongst other issues. And we will visit a shelter for victims of gender-based violence if that is possible. So, honourable members, this is then the draft program for the first term. It will be a very busy first term. And unfortunately, with those 3 Tuesdays taken out because it will be National Assembly mornings, we've had to pack everything into these timeframes. And I would then table the program for the consideration of members for any inputs or questions, or for anyone that would like to adopt our first term program. Over to you, honourable members. Are we all happy with the first term program? Because I don't see any hands. Okay, Honourable Spies, followed by Honourable Chauke Adonis. I want to say followed by Honourable Sotseti, but I will get a reprimand again by not producing his surname correctly. So you will school me again, Honourable Member. Honourable Spies.
Good morning, Chair, and good morning, colleagues. It's good to see everyone back again. I want just, if the Secretary can just go back to the program at the beginning of in February. Okay. Just maybe there's a very good reason for that, but I just wanted to understand why the meetings of next week is our Zoom meetings or virtual meetings, seeing that I think we are all going to be here for the SONA. So that's all I wanted to understand. Maybe there's a very good reason for that.
Thank you so much, Honourable Spies. We can definitely still try and find a venue for an in-person meeting. I was just not sure when members will be travelling to Cape Town, so I'd assume that Zoom might be easier for some members, but I'm definitely open for us to look for a venue. It's if members would like to have an in-person meeting. Honourable, our whip, Honourable Chauke Adonis.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and compliments to the new year, to the collective and honourable members as well. Chair, mine would be on the element of saying the exclusion of learners with disabilities, and perhaps these could just be semantics. Perhaps what it should be quoted as or noted as is the intervention strategies or plans for inclusion and integration of learners within the basic education system, because I think that would speak directly to what we're trying to achieve with this oversight visit. Also, with the oversight visit regarding the special needs schools, will we then have a drafted template of what it is that we'll be signaling or looking out for as part of our oversight? I know when we do engage with basic education, one of the things that we will really have an interest in is the budget allocation, the monitoring and evaluation on performance of these schools, and how they appoint OTs and facilitators and educators in these academic institutions. And then also is to look at how many academic institutions um, have been established over the past 10 years, and what is the projected plan for opening new academic institutions. And then lastly, it would also be speaking to full service institutions for that will integrate learners with disabilities in the basic education. Lastly, I think, Chairperson, what I wanted to know, because I think the exclusion of learners with disabilities is quite broad, will this also then give us an opportunity to look at the higher education element of it, for us to see what is the retention rate of learners with disabilities in TVET colleges, in higher learning institutions, and what is the dropout rate, and what are some of the strategies that are going to be put in place or have been put in place by higher education in order for us to retain and see more graduates coming out of those institutions as well. But I think overall, then I am satisfied with the program, and I would then move to adopt the agenda with those inputs after comrades have come in. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Honorable Chake Adonis. I'm seeing the hand of Honorable Angel as well, but first it's Honorable Sotsetsi, but that is again a wrong pronunciation, so forgive me.
No, Chair, I'm prepared to help you pronounce it right for the next 5 years.
Hopefully it won't take that long, Honorable Member.
So yes, compliments to all members of the committee. Greetings to you, Chairperson, and all members of the committee. I think in terms of the structure, the program is okay. I would want to just make an input, or in terms of our meeting with basic education, that we probably maybe expand the scope. Then I will explain why we are from the back to school campaigns across the country. And one thing that we would have picked up is that there is a very deliberate program from the basic education department which speaks to inclusive schooling, which means that our schools must be able to accommodate learners with special needs. Our public schools rather should be able to, or are directed to accommodate learners with special needs. That's why there is a directive that an ideal school infrastructure must incorporate aspects like the ramps to enable the movement of wheelchairs and other aspects that will make learning possible in all our public schools for learners with special needs. Now, I think that as a committee, we must take interest on how far or what is the pace of implementation of that that directive on the part of the basic education department, so that we can be able to incorporate, perhaps as part of our oversight at some point, an element of going to view them ourselves, but of course keeping track with with how far are they going and the pace at which they're implementing that part of the legislation. So I think that we must call on them as they come forward towards the committee to give us a brief. It must actually be standard that every time we interface with the Department of Basic Education, that they must give us a sense of how far they're going in the implementation of this inclusive schooling, because it is very important for the people that's living with disability to have the schools being able to cater also for their needs. So that is my proposal, Chair. Beside that, I think that the program is well structured and it's helpful. Thank you. I submit.
Thank you so much, Honourable Member. Honourable Kanyile, I also see the hand again of Honourable Chalke Adonis, or is it a legacy hand? Otherwise, you'll
No,
follow.
Chair, it's not a legacy hand. I will follow after.
Okay, great. Thank you. Honourable Kanyile.
Thank you, Chairperson, for the opportunity. Chairperson, I appreciate that we will be getting the briefing on the Gender-Based Violence Council. I am not sure if I'm actually bringing this matter through the back door, but I thought it's important for me to ask. If we all remember very well, this issue should have been discussed on the 27th of November, and it is the same day where the department did not join the Zoom meeting that they were supposed to join. The question that I have, Chairperson, I'd like to find out if you have received any feedback from the department or from Honourable Frolick and regarding why the department did not attend that meeting, because we also wrote to your office requesting that you provide full details or get clarity from the department. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Honourable Kanyile. I will, at the end, when we are done, I will speak to all the issues. Honourable Chalke Adonis, followed by Honourable Mkonto.
Thank you very much, Chair. I just wanted to inquire. I just want to find out on our program, and I know it is a very tight program, also just taking into consideration that we are the portfolio of women, youth, and persons with disabilities. One would also think it's very important for us to have a view of what I can say the academic results not globally, nationally, sorry, apologies, nationally looks like in terms of the matriculants of 2024, but also the absorption of those learners in higher learning institutions. Also to see where there is a bottleneck in terms of the NSFAS applications, the success of that. And I think one of the institutions that perhaps I will be guided by yourself, Chairperson, is to have an opportunity for us to also engage with NSFAS to see what are some of the bottlenecks that are affecting the young people who seek to apply for this financial aid as well, so that we're able to also provide the necessary guidance and go out into our constituency and also provide the necessary support to them in this regard. I think it's very important for us to really address that. I also will be sitting with a problem come June where we have not addressed the issue of funding through NSFAS for learners, but also having learners not being accepted into academic institutions and us not having addressed the issue as a portfolio committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Honourable Whip. Honourable Mkonto.
Thanks, Chair. Good morning, Chair, to you, honourable members, our staff. Chair, thanks for the warm welcome. Chair, as a new member, I would request that your office avail the legacy report of the previous term so that I'm able to understand issues that have been addressed and the status quo. I think I'll be able to contribute meaningfully in this committee after reading that report. Thanks very much, Chair.
Thank you so much, Honourable Mkonto. Honourable Shabango. Honourable Mkonto, we will definitely make that report available just after this meeting to yourself. That's not a problem at all. Honourable
Thanks,
Shabango.
Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. I was a bit reluctant to speak, but I'm triggered by the other speakers, especially when it comes to the Department of Education that will be coming to address us on certain issues. Comrade Chair, I want to concur with you, Comrade Chiamo, with the expansion of, because I'm looking at our program that it goes up to April. What Comrade Adonis is talking to, the Honorable Adonis, I'm so sorry, I'm used to this thing of Comrade. The Honorable Adonis, what he's talking to with the admission of the pass rate of 2024 class. Currently, the challenge that is at hand before we get to NSFAS, it's the access issue, where these the matriculants that have passed cannot access the tertiary institution because of the limited space. And looking at this, I'm thinking that in future going forward, maybe, I don't know whether it must be the Department of Higher Education or as a portfolio committee representing the youth and even the people with disability, there's youth amongst those people. That maybe it's something that as a committee we need to take forward with the issue of a limited space in the tertiary institution. Because this government, where we are now, there's only 2 new universities for the past 3 decades. And of course, that is bringing this challenge of a access issue to tertiary institution. It's something that as a committee representing the youth, we need to take it up, because I think the universities that we have, those that are post pre-1994 and post-1994, because there's only 2 post-1994. I think that's the biggest challenge that we have, which I think I am suggesting that when we talk to the challenges like your NSFAS, maybe the Department of Higher Education or whoever, these are the issues that they need to be addressed, but also encouraging the youth also to, because it looks like the TVETs are not that much utilized. All the children post-matric, they want to go to universities, yet we have a TVET. But that is what I wanted to bring up. And also, look, I hear that we'll have an oversight visit to KZN. I have an issue that is bothering me since we are coming from this right to learn campaign. And in fact, we're still busy with it. The inclusive schools, they must serve the purpose. When we get to this Department of Education or we go for oversight, for me, it's not about in having kids that are, there is learners that are having special needs that they are accommodated. They are not there just to sit in class and be accommodated, but they are there for a purpose. They must get education from qualified teachers, because that's the challenge that I've picked up in one of the inclusive schools that we have. And they're not, these children, they're not from Mpumalanga, they're from all over the country, your KZN, your Bloemfontein, your Northwest, your Joburg. I would simply say they are dumped here in Mpumalanga. And there's no proper education. that is taking place there. Out of 15 matriculants, there's 0 pass rate for the past 3 years. So these are I'm bringing this up so that when we do the oversight, when we talk the inclusiveness of these children with disabilities, we must also look at, it's not just bring them, there's a school. We have resources. Those are the things that the department, when we go forward with the Department of Education, when we do our oversight, we should really look into that. I heard that NEHAWU is coming up with the education front because of all these challenges that we are talking about, the access, the limited space at the tertiary institution, the budget cut, your NSFAS challenges. So they are coming up with the education front. I hope it will also, maybe at Department of Education, it's going to brief us on that and we will know how it's going to work. But generally with the program, I'm fine, Honorable Chair. I'm just saying that I don't know whether it will be, whether we in future, we also need to be briefed by Department of Higher Education with these challenges of NSFAS, if they can be clubbed together. But let me pause there, Chair. Thank you. I hope I'm not taking this out of your agenda, but I support what has been presented. Thank you.
Thank you very much, honourable members. Thank you so much for all your contributions and your inputs, and I think all of them have been really valuable. As we are representing youth, I think the issues around higher education and how it's been articulated by both Honourable Chauke Adonis and Honourable Shivambu, it becomes very important that we also schedule a meeting with the Department of Higher Education. The NYDA has got NSFAS on their agenda. So, of course, it links to our oversight and the work that we are doing as a committee. And I think we are very adamant as a committee that in this term and in next term, we want to bring all of these departments before us to explain some of the issues and challenges that we are seeing on the ground. Because, honourable members, for example, when we speak about the issue of children with disabilities and education, recently a report was submitted to the UN where they said that in South Africa, about 800,000 of our young people, our children, are not at school because of the fact that there is no space for them in the education system. So if we're talking about inclusive education, we need to make sure that the system is actually conducive, as Honourable Shivambu had said, to incorporating, and it shouldn't just be incorporating because we are all on these oversight visits, but recently in rural KwaZulu-Natal, for example, a mother said to us that if I do not take my child to school myself, my child will not receive an education because there's no access in terms of the building being friendly for a child with disabilities. The teachers have not received the adequate training. So those are all the issues that we'll be zooming in on the day, honourable members. So what we're going to be asking of the Department of Education, they will be, because also now we will be engaging with them on more than one issue. And so we will obviously have a full day with them, but it's a very important meeting. And that's also why I brought it up so earlier on the agenda. In other words, we would have engaged with them later in the term, but we felt it necessary that we actually bring this meeting forward. So what some of the key issues, when we're talking about framing in terms of reference, some of the key issues that we'll be discussing with them is we're going to ask them to give us an overview of inclusive education, of the inclusive education policy, number of special needs schools per province, number of learners with disabilities with special needs schools within special needs schools, number of learners with disabilities in mainstream schools per province, and a number of learners with disabilities on waiting lists, and the budget allocation for these schools. For example, when this report was sent to the UN, it made note that these 800,000 learners, they age out of the education system. In other words, they are on the waiting list when they're supposed to go to school, and they're still at on the waiting list when they turn 18. So these are some of the issues we need to address with the department. And of course, members will be able to raise all of the issues that they see in their own oversight, in their own constituencies and communities, and even that you have now picked up with these back to school campaigns. So honourable members, we will do all of that. With regards, okay, Honourable Spies asked about the venue or a Zoom meeting, we'll look into that. Honourable Mkonta wanted the legacy report. Then Honourable Kanile, with regards to the issues around gender-based violence, I think on that day, maybe it's an omission, but I wanted, because previously we said that the department must brief us not only on the National Council on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide, but also on their 365-day plan to fight gender-based violence. Again, over the December period, the two issues that was on the news every day was the two national crises, the gender-based violence issue and the learner pregnancy issue. So we can engage them on that. And with regards to the investigation about the department that did not or were not present on the day, there was an excuse or an issue that was brought forward around the timing, in that we started at 9 and seemingly they had still had the information about a meeting starting at 10 o'clock. But honourable member, I assure you those matters have been resolved, and going forward, we will make sure that the department and the DG join us, that we have them present and that we're able to play our oversight role. It is our responsibility to oversight this department, and we plan to do so in the year ahead. So honourable members, I heard two honourable members, Honourable Chauke Aduna saying she's happy with the program. Can I ask then that she moves to adopt it, and that we ask another member just to second, please, with those amendments that honourable members had requested. And as I've indicated, I will then also look for a slot to see where we can engage with higher education. Even though our program is full, I do make that commitment that we'll try and find an additional slot. So can we get a mover and a seconder, please?
Thank you, Chairperson. I move to adopt the agenda or the program, proposed program for the Portfolio Committee.
So much. Thank you so much, honourable member. Can I have a seconder, please?
Thank you, Chairperson.
Honourable
Thank you, Chair. I second this proposed agenda program for the Portfolio Committee. Thank you.
Thank you so much, honourable members, and thank you for that discussion around the issues, our focus areas for the honourable members. I would now like to ask, if we go back to our agenda, I would like to ask Mr. Mdumizweni and Ms. Abrams to give us two reports with regards to the NYDA process. I've now outlined to members that we will be doing the interviews in that last week of February, which is our committee week. We will be having them in Cape Town. And of course, as we get to the interviews, we will still be briefing members on issues. But for now, members will recall that we had asked the public to write to us and to comment on the candidates that we have shortlisted. And we gave a cut-off date of 15 January. So Mr. Mdumizweni and Ms. Abrams will speak to us. Ms. Abrams will speak to us about the comments that we got with regards to the shortlisted candidates. And Mr. Mdumizweni will speak to us about the HR report and the state security report, vetting report on our candidates. And thereafter, members can engage on those reports. Over to you, Ms. Abrams.
Good morning, Chairperson, and good morning to the honourable members and my colleagues. Chairperson, kindly indicate if you'd like me to increase the size.
If you could, it is small. Thank you.
As Chairperson's indicated, members would have received two documents regarding the public commentary. One is an Excel spreadsheet, and then the second is a Word document, which is up on the screen now, which will provide an overview of what had come out of the public commentary. Just to reiterate to members, on the 3rd of December, That's when the committee had shortlisted a total of 20 candidates. The public commentary ran from the 6th of December to the 15th of January. And the reason for the extension and the duration was more than 30 days was because of the public holidays. And we wanted to ensure that there was ample time for the public to engage. The committee would have noted on the Excel spreadsheet that we received a considerable amount of commentary. In total, we had 1,349 individuals and organizations comment on the candidates. Most of the comments received by the online platform were positive. In other words, they were endorsing certain candidates. There were only 7 negative comments, and that focused on 6 members, which I've highlighted in the Excel spreadsheet. And in most instances, there was one sentence. It was not much of an explanation as to why the candidate was not endorsed. A comment was also received from an individual not focused on any candidate, but instead questioned why there was no person shortlisted from vendor. There were also several comments in which a name was only stated in the comment section with no explanation or a cell phone number. So as opposed to giving a comment, the cell phone number was noted or the name of the political party, for example, ANC or MK, but again, no further explanation provided. And I have highlighted that in the Excel spreadsheet in orange. In addition, there was also a public comment which was received by email for a candidate that was nominated. In other words, she was in the process of CVs being considered. The person was there, but she was not shortlisted. So the correspondence received requested an explanation as to why that particular candidate was not shortlisted. In essence, the comments received came from both individuals and organizations. Nature of the comments also varied from detailed explanations for why candidates should be endorsed to very brief descriptions for why the candidate is most suitable. Members are referred to the Excel spreadsheet again for each comment per candidate, as well as the timestamp, so members are able to see exactly when the comment came in. So Mr. Mangere received 460. He was the person that received the most public comments. Busisiwe, 311. Tembisile, 174. Bonga, 74. Avuhile, 54. Kelly, 32. Sitembile, 22. Malusi, 4. Tulisa Nkabayiso, 2. Celeste, Theodore, Sibasiso, Sunshine, and Sylvia, 1. And the last candidates received no comments. In summary, the positive comments received related mainly to the candidates' leadership abilities, their skill set and experience, their character, their ethical conduct, their experience in terms of youth development, and contributions, as well as a reflection of the interpersonal interactions as a work colleague or within the community. Chairperson and members, so that in summary, again, just gives you an idea of the extent of the comments received, and again, in understanding where the public commentary fits in with the process. Members would, as we started, when we put out the advert, there was a call for nominations. CVs were received. Members had gone through the CVs. It was shortlisted, the 20 candidates. The comments are for those 20 candidates, and the next process would be, part of the process is the interview. And then after the interview, it would be deliberation of the outcome of the interviews, looking at the public commentary, and then taking into consideration what Mr. Mvaba will present next, which is the outcome of state security and the verification of qualifications. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you so much, Ms. Abrams. Mr. Dumisweni.
Recording stopped. Recording in
Welcome back.
progress.
I see you had an issue.
Yes, my apologies, Chair, I'm back.
Thank you. Please proceed with your report. Mr. Dumiswemi, Ms. Abrams is done with her report. We're waiting on you to table your report, please. Ms. Abrams,
I'll flag it down, Chair. Thank you.
thank you. Ms. Silly, are you able to flight the report in the meantime? Or Ms. Abrams? It seems Mvaba is having problem. Oh, there we go. Please
Okay,
proceed.
thank you, Chair, and thank you to honorable members. I've got an issue. I'm using my cell phone to connect, so there are network issues.
No problem. Please proceed.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Chair, very much. I think a number of things have been highlighted, or in fact have been referred to by my colleague Kashifa. So to start with, Chair, I will present the report on security screening and also the verification of the qualifications. So as we're all aware of the fact that on the 3rd of December 2024, the committee shortlisted 20 candidates. And then we had a responsibility as the Secretariat to communicate the outcomes of that shortlisting meeting to all 20 candidates, which we did. Send them letters that were signed that were approved, that were signed by the chairperson. And we also sent the letters to our other departments within the institution, the protection services, because for us to reach or to be able to be assisted by the state security agents, we need to send information to our protection services, which is something that we did on the 6th of December, and we gave them up until the 11th of December for the process to be finalized. So on the 15th of January, we in fact we gave them, for candidates, we said they must submit their subs forms for fingerprints on or before 11th of December, which most of them did, Chair. But I must also indicate that there are those who submitted after that 11th due to a number of issues. It was December, Korea companies delaying and all that stuff. But we are glad to announce that, to share with the committee, that eventually all of them managed to submit their subs forms, I think it's 91A forms, including the indemnity forms. On the 15th, we requested the SSA to give us a feedback, that is the results, which they did yesterday. They gave us the feedback on Friday, but we got the information, the confirmation yesterday. So the results are that out of the 20 that submitted their fingerprints and all the necessary information, 16 got positive results. There are no criminal records or anything that relates to any financial or credit defaults. So those are we have got 16 of them. And with 4 candidates, they have a credit negative information against them. We've got that information from the State Security Agency, but it is within the committee to decide on what will happen after this. Coming to HR, Chair, that is the verification of qualifications, we had a number of challenges, Chair. The first one would be that when we submitted these names on 5 January, we communicated with the department on the 5th of January. We sent the indemnity and consent forms to the candidates, 20 of them, together with the letters. And then we gave them up until the 9th. That is, we said they had to submit these forms before on the 9th of December. Some of them complied and submitted their information on the 9th. Some of them, in fact, one of them, or some of them didn't do. But we said to HR, they must try to assist us before the 15th, because the understanding was that we would have the interviews on the 28th of January, that is towards the end of January. So we wanted to make sure that when we go to those interviews, everything would be finalized. But then the HR couldn't do that. So the information that we managed to get so far is that in fact, what they said to us is that when we made a follow-up during the course of January, that was before the 15th, to say they must give us a feedback. They indicated to us that Parliament had a contract with a company called Lexis RefCheck, because Parliament doesn't have a capacity to do that work on its own, and therefore they outsource those services, in fact, or that work. So, but they couldn't pick it up that the contract between at the end of December. So we only got that around the 15th of December when we phoned, or in fact communicated with them. That's when they indicated to us that Parliament doesn't have any contract with that previous service provider, and therefore a new one was appointed in January.
Mr. Dumisweni,
So all the management, but the matter was resolved. So the new company, sorry, Chair?
No, we were losing you there for a second, but please proceed. I'm sorry. Please proceed.
Okay, I'm sorry, Chair. So I'm saying, Chair, with the new company started in January. So they managed to complete 10 out of 20, out of 19 forms that were submitted. There were 19 because one of the candidates didn't follow the instructions. Well, the instruction was that someone must manually sign the form and send it back, but she electronically signed. So the service provider couldn't go any further with that. So it makes that the right and the forms that were ready to be processed were 19, but we have since sent the information to the candidate to say that she must submit the correctly signed form. She did that, so that form is currently sitting with HR. So out of that 19 or 20, they managed to complete 10 out of the total number, which is 20, and there's still 10 that is outstanding. So in that 10 that is still outstanding, Chair, we still have a problem of one candidate who couldn't provide us with a valid copy of matric certificate. He gave us the statement of symbols, which the service provider said they do not use, or for them to do this better, they need the copy of the original or the valid certificate. And therefore, there's nothing they can do. We wrote to the candidate, and he said that he lost the certificate a long time ago. In other words, he's not in possession of any certificate that is valid certificate. So that is the information, Chair. But we'll also, I think it is important to also take it to present it before the committee that we think that what the committee needs to do, or the resolution that the committee needs to take out of this meeting, is to advise us as the Secretariat on what to do now that we've got this crisis, or what the committee decides to do regarding these 4 candidates whose credit information is negative, and also with this one candidate who couldn't submit the original or valid matric certificate, and also the delays with HR. We involve the manager, our manager, and there's nothing that is happening. In fact, they do not deliver as we expected, because even the response that we got from the service provider, it says they have been trying, but January is being busy, and they assume that the institutions are busy with the registration process and all that stuff, and that results to these delays. So that's all, Chair, I can report, unless there's something that you would love me to add. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dumisweni. I also wanted to welcome Dr. Tembe, who is with us. Honourable members, we've got two reports in front of us, and I'm going to give members an opportunity to comment on both reports. I do think, Mr. Ndumizweni, that the situation with HR is completely unacceptable. It is completely unacceptable because on the previous timeframes, we would have conducted our interviews this week, which would have meant that we as a committee would have gone to Johannesburg without the requisite information that we had requested. And I find this situation to be really unfortunate. So I think what I will do after this meeting is I will write a letter and ask that we as a committee be given an assurance that they will complete the work within a set time frame, because I do not think that they're doing this committee any justice by delaying like they are. And I mean, the fact of the matter is they knew that they were looking for a new service provider and they should have made a plan B. Colleagues, there's two other resolutions that we should consider, and maybe Dr. Tembe can also give his opinion, but there's one candidate, as you have now seen, that has not submitted a valid matric certificate, and we have got 4 candidates with negative credit records. And we as a committee need to decide then on a way forward with regards to the one candidate who has not submitted the matric certificate, and also with regards to these negative credit records. Whether you believe it's material or not, it's up to members to make that conclusion. But it must be said, honourable members, that we will be recommending to the president of the country candidates who will be managing the financial affairs of the NYDA. They will have fiduciary responsibilities, and we know that the NYDA manages billions of rands, so we need to keep that in mind. But honourable members, it's now your opportunity to engage with the two reports and to ask any questions or to speak to the resolutions. Honourable Mkonto, followed by Honourable Spies, followed by Honourable Diamo.
Thanks, Chair. Chair, first of all, we welcome the report and we appreciate the information that has been explained to us. I will start by a question, Chair. My question is with the candidate that didn't submit a valid matric certificate, if there is any document that he has or she has submitted and it was verified, or he did not submit at all. I just don't understand there. And then the second one, Chair, will be when it comes to credit records, Chair, it's a very tricky a situation in South Africa where the finance institutions are not pro-poor, are not previously disadvantaged. So if we say people are not credit worthy, exactly what do we mean to young people who have not even started life, and all of a sudden we are told that they don't have a good credit records? I mean, I would say let us put aside this credit record thing, because we are talking about young people here. Where would they get money to be credit worthy? And what exactly is meant by credit worthy? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Honourable Mkonto, for those inputs. Honourable Spies.
Chairperson, my first one would be on the qualifications. Chair, I think from the onset, when any person applies for a post, and this and is serious about an application, you ensure that all your documents are in place. It is not for anyone to chase after any applicant to hand in their documentation, specifically after the person has been given the opportunity and still it's not forthcoming. So I do not think that we could now bend the rules for persons that did not adhere to the requirements that was clearly stated when it went out for publication. As I said, this is a very serious appointment and serious job. And I do think that, we need to, this person can just not be considered in this regard seriously. Then, secondly, Chair, my opinion on, and I'm willing to obviously listen what other colleagues are having to say. But people's credit records are in certain situations or conditions or statuses because people go through tough times in their life, not because of their own doing. People lose their jobs, things happen, and that affects their credit record. But not some, many people get, and maybe even some of us. It has happened to us that at a point in your life, something happened in your life, your partner lost a job or whatever, you had to take responsibility for things and affected your credit record, not because you deliberately wanted that to happen. Circumstances impacted on your credit record. I understand the responsibility that lies that on that these board members have to carry and execute, but we need to, it's for me a very fine line, and it sometimes unfairly or unjustly so disqualifies people, chairperson. But I at this point, I'm willing to hear what other colleagues have to say with this regard. But for me personally, I do believe it is something that is quite debatable. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honourable Spies, for those inputs. Honourable Tsoteti and Honourable Shabango.
Thank you, Chairperson. I want to start by commenting on the issue of the matric certificate. I think we must be given information thoroughly here. And firstly, I would want to align with the question that came, I think, from Honorable Mkondo, to say what other documents does this person have, and have they been thoroughly checked in terms of whether they are valid. For instance, you can't, in all fairness, prosecute a person probably who holds a diploma which is valid from a reputable institution, and you prosecute this person for not producing what you would say is a valid or matric certificate. Well, valid is another thing, because invalid would mean that this matric certificate is fake. But you have a person that would produce basic results and not necessarily be in position of the recent certificate. So let's get the merits on that thing. But I think that if the circumstances are in line with what Honorable Mkondo is raising, I would second the view to say that if there is any other document which proves this person to be in a position of a legitimate qualification post-matric, then I don't think that we should be speaking about removing this person from the shortlisted. Chair, the second issue on the credit score. Look, I agree fully with people who are saying that we can't treat young people harshly on the grounds of having a negative credit score. I think let's agree that we raise it as probably a red flag, but allow them to proceed, because young people in their nature, there are people who are building their credit score. But by the way, I for a state institution which does not have its own apparatus of dealing with credit scores and everything, depending on how the private sector and capital assesses people, I don't think this is a very useful exercise or system which we must use to assess our people. So I don't think that people, of course, we must encourage young people to be responsible in terms of finances and so forth. But I don't think that we should be using that to deny young people an opportunity to be interviewed and to express themselves and their capabilities on many other fields. So the issue of credit score, I think let's put it aside. I myself don't have an impressive credit score, so out of sympathy and bias, I would not want to prosecute anyone for not having a credit score. I have my own reasons why I have circumstances that relates to the credit score. So really, I don't think that is a good mechanism to put young people aside. So let's condone these young people with the circumstances that are surrounding them, and give them the opportunity to be interviewed in public, and I'm sure that they will be able to express their potential, which goes beyond these smaller narratives that we are trying to discuss here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Honourable Member. Honourable Shabango, followed by Honourable Gaza, followed by Honourable Mabel, followed by Honourable Kanile. Over to you, Honourable colleagues.
Thank you, Chair. And let's appreciate the report that has been given to us. On the HR, Honourable Chair, I'm not going to comment. You have said a lot. I think they will pull up their socks and work towards finalizing whatever challenges that they had. Regarding the candidate without metric certificate, if I heard well, the report said the candidate submitted the statement of results and indicated that he lost the metric certificate. Unfortunately, we will not know how the candidate lost a certificate because it's very dynamic if one look at it. You know, we have children of our own. I always pick up certificate and frame them somewhere. They take them, they go, they apply, then they will be missing somewhere. So for me, it's two ways. It goes with irresponsibility, or unless if we know how the candidate lost a certificate, because some they stay in the rented places, then they leave certificate everywhere and anyhow. But if then HR or whoever that is verifying has got time, this can be verified against the Melusi to check if the candidate wrote the exam, because we mean you cannot rule out the fact that there are so many fake certificate, fake results. It's very easy to print those things out. I had nurses that had South African Nursing Council certificate, very authentic, yet they never went for training, they never wrote exams. I'm sorry to say, because mostly it's our foreign sisters and brothers. So this needs to be if there is anyone from HR or whoever that is dealing with this, to verify if the candidate did sit for exams, maybe we can consider that. But losing your certificate, you apply, you don't have certificate. I don't know whether it must be an affidavit or you get anything from Melusi yourself. Sense of responsibility, that is a question mark for me. Then when it comes to credit score, again, unfortunately, because of the POPI Act, because sometimes a person will be said not to have a good credit score because of the 10 rand that you owe Celsi or whatever. then you are on the credit bureau. And unless, I don't know, because time might not be on HR side or whoever that is verifying, at least for candidate to look at this themselves, because you can log in and get the information, then maybe to be verified, the weight of this credit score is in relation to what? Because sometimes these credit scores, especially when we talk young people, they are done deliberately because young people, you know, they will be young and they are young with being irresponsible. But I mean, looking at our country, the unemployment rate, some of these things, they might come from unemployment, all the challenges that they experience. Maybe one, because I was looking at the number is still fine, but maybe on the credit score, we can say the candidate can be allowed to go through. I don't know. It will be paid this committee's agreement. But if there was somehow a way of verifying all this, if there was time to verify with Melus about their metric results, and also the candidate to check their credit score and submit to the committee, considering the POPI Act, I would suggest that. But if we don't have time at hand to do that, then the credit score, maybe it will be disregarded, and then verify. I strongly feel that we cannot use the statement which is not verified in one or another way, that it is authentic. The candidate did sit for exam. Thank you, Chair. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Honorable Gasa.
Thank you, Chairperson. Compliments of the new season to you, Chairperson, members of the committee, and to the staff. Firstly, I would like to start with the issue of HR in regards to e-matric certificates. Even though I didn't hear properly what was the issue of not submitting the original. However, I think as a committee, we are guided by the criteria of shortlisting the candidates. And I think metric certificates was one of the requirements. And if the metric certificate is not there, I think that person already is disqualified. However, I do understand other members, the attempts that they are sharing with us. But for me, I think we have a criteria that is guiding us in terms of the requirements. On the second issue, I think the credit score of candidates, for me, we can allow them to proceed because, you know, when we are growing up, we face different challenges and it's not a right time to share those challenges as we see some of us, we've been through those, but then I think we can give them the chance. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Mabel, then Honorable Kanyile, then Honorable Chauke Adonis, please. Please proceed, Honorable Member. Please unmute.
I'm trying, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair and honorable members. My question is based on negative credit records. Is it not possible for the creditors, Honorable Chair, to give us the information in detail? What happened with those members who are negatively found that their credit records are negative? Is it not possible maybe to get the detailed information, what happened exactly, for a member to find him or herself to be on a negative side? And my second point, it was on the metric certificates, whereby a person will say, I lost my metric certificate. I think that one is very easy. It's not even a problem. Yes, the metric certificate, it was one of the requirements, but it's very easy to deal with this situation of those who claiming that their certificates were lost. It's easy because the certificate can be checked with Melusi, as one member said, as one member just articulated that we can check that with Melusi. I don't think that it's a serious problem. I thank you. I submit.
Thank you so much. Honorable Kanile.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I think on the issue of negative credit information, I've been largely covered by a number of colleagues that have spoken before me. I think also looking at the economy of our country and the rate of unemployment amongst young people, this can also be a contributing factor to this matter that we are discussing. And secondly, I want to comment on the issue of the matric certificate. I think after we shortlisted the candidates, the support staff, there was a time where we left them in the meeting room where they were checking if the applicants meet the criteria. I'm wondering what exactly was being checked on that day, if today we are sitting with an issue where we are now debating whether somebody that doesn't have a metric certificate must go through or not. Because I believe that this issue should have been discussed or picked up on that day and addressed. Be it as it may, now that we are where we are, I support the colleagues that say maybe the office will need to do verifications, but I also strongly feel that the candidate had a responsibility to have their metric certificate reprinted. I remember during the festive season on the NYDA social media group, there was a link that was shared by NYDA indicating that if a person has lost their metric certificate, they can go into that link. I opened it. There was about 3 or 4 steps that one needed to follow to can be able to get their metric certificate reprinted. So the applicant has a responsibility to ensure that their documentation is in order. But if there is time for the office to do verifications, I guess the office can give that indication. And lastly, Chairperson, I think there is a matter that we have not addressed. When Mr. Dumezweni was making his presentation, he made an indication that there was one applicant that did not sign the application manually and submit. I think it was sent back to the applicant. I did not get clarity where that document was received back or what is the status and when is it expected to be received back. I think we may need to make a resolution on that as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Honorable Chalke Aduanes, followed by Dr. Leklape.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I think also, like Honorable Kanyile, I've been greatly covered by my colleagues as well. And I think perhaps when we have you come in as well is just to clarify the issue around the metric certificate, the verification of it, so that we are also as members very clear in terms of what has transpired. And I think if I am correct, and I can be corrected, was to say that it was a statement that was given. It's not that the applicant does not have or did not pass the matric, but did not have the required documentation. But I think additionally to that, and I think Honorable Shabangu spoke to this in terms of responsibility and accountability, and I think this needs to be re-emphasized to our candidates as well, that it is their responsibility to ensure that they have the relevant documents submitted, because I think it would also be unfair to a certain to a certain extent when we make provision for one candidate but have an expectation of other candidates to follow instructions that are given in order for them to qualify. But one would then also understand that maybe not having access to the information of how to acquire or to reacquire those certificates, etc., that might have led to where we are right now. And perhaps we can also just be advised if there are provisions that can be made for us to acquire more information on this certification, or communication can then go back to the applicant to acquire this particular certification that is then required, and obviously guided also by the collective. Additionally, on the credit rating, the negative credit rating, I think one also agrees with Comrade Tutetsi to say that yes, young people and the economic circumstances that young people find themselves with high rates of unemployment, but also with not finding the opportunities for them to really balance out the credits that they have acquired. One would want to sort of pardon this, but also at the same time, in the same breath, one would want to understand what is the gravity of these negative credit ratings, because there can be a credit rating that is negative of 100 Rand, and there can be a credit rating negative of 200,000. What does this look like, and are we able to get an overview of what that looks like, and perhaps how can I say, how the applicants, chairperson, look to or have made plans to mitigate these negative credit ratings that are against their names as well. And this will also speak to ensuring that young people also take responsibility and accountability when it comes to having a healthy financial relationship when it comes to their finances as well. So as chairperson has indicated, is that there's some of the responsibilities that will be then allocated are dealing with finances, and we must also be cautious of that at the end of the day. We do not want to jeopardize the integrity of this process and also of the board that will then be appointed. So I think we must also take those into consideration as well, but also take into consideration that we also do not want to give not disheartening. We do not want to demotivate young people from pursuing their careers or pursuing any avenue due to their credit ratings, but there must be some sort of intervention that we as a portfolio committee also speak on and re-emphasize to these applicants going forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much to our whip, Dr. Litlape.
Thank you, Chair, and compliments to everyone. Mine is just a simple input that if you put criteria, we must apply them ruthlessly and fairly across for everyone. We should make no exceptions for anyone. If we want a matric certificate, if you don't produce it, you're out. We can't get into being the ones that mitigate. We want people that take responsibility. On the issue of the credit rating, if we put it as a criteria that you must have a clean credit rating to get in, we must apply that criteria. If we put it as something that gives you points, apply it in that way. But we can't be the ones that mitigate. Because God forbid that we end up appointing someone that has a terrible credit rating and others are out and it leaks out. The question will be asked, when you put credit rating criteria, what were you looking for? Were we mindless? Didn't we know what the implications were? For me, if you have rules, apply them. They are helping you select. That's why you put them as criteria. We can't then come back and be the ones that mitigate against the rules that we have placed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much for your inputs, Dr. Leklape. I see the hand of Honorable Shabango. And after that, Dr. Tembe, I'm just going to ask you to speak to the two issues of the matric certificate, as well as the issue of the credit record or credit rating. And Mr. Mdumizweni, after Honorable Shabango, I want you to clarify the issue around which documents were submitted by the candidate who did not give us the matric certificate, and thereafter we'll just conclude on these matters. Honorable Shabango.
Thank you for the second bite, Chair. As we are discussing this, the last one, the credit score, I remember when my daughter started working and then she wanted to open accounts. She was refused accounts. They said she does not have a good credit score because there is nothing to verify from. I don't know whether I'm explaining this correctly, which made me to, while we were discussing this, to say if it was possible that the candidate themselves, I hear what Dr. Leklape is saying, it's very correct that we should work by the principles and the rules that were there. The reason why I said if it was possible for candidates, because of the POPI Act, it can't be anyone else to check and submit. For them to submit, to check their credit score, because it indicates if you log in on the TransUnion something, to check that and submit to the relevant committee to check against this credit score. I'm saying this because it might be that the person that has got no credit to verify how he manages his credit, because I've experienced that with my daughter. I just wanted to submit that, not defying whatever the other honorable members are saying. Otherwise, I would say it's very correct that you don't qualify, you put it aside, but then knowing that sometimes you don't have a credit at all, then you will be told you don't have a good credit record because there's no baseline to verify you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Honorable Shabango. And actually, I just wanted to share with honorable members, Honorable Tsotsetsi said earlier he's a person with a bad credit record for reasons of his own. But I once, when I was much younger, also had a credit card. I was trying to work 3 jobs while studying, and I paid off this credit card eventually, but I didn't realize that the credit card still had insurance fees. And so when I canceled the credit card, the insurance fees kept on going off. And so later, I ended up having problems with the credit score because the bank never canceled the insurance on the credit card that I had already paid off and wanted to cancel. So, of course, some of these things, as you have all flagged, honorable members, are tricky issues. But I think, of course, Dr. Leklape also raises important points. And I'm also one of the guilty parties who lost my matric certificate a long time ago. And last year, I tried to, through the online platform, to apply for a new certificate, and it's not reached me as yet. So some of those issues, of course, we have to be fair, and we have to, of course, stick with what our criteria that we adopted. But we also have to be fair because there are prevailing circumstances that young people in this country with the highest unemployment rate face. But Dr. Tembe, if you can talk to us, please, just to give your thoughts on the issues that the members have raised. And then I'm going to ask Mr. Mdumizweni to speak to us about the certificate, please. Over to you, Dr. Tembe.
Thanks, Chair. Good morning, honorable members, and good morning, colleagues. So on the issue of the matric certificate, we need to revert back actually to the advert, the initial advert that was agreed to say whether it stated that the potential applicants should submit their matric certificate. If it was clearly stated, then So by the time the members decided to nominate or shortlist, that should have been a disqualification. But if it was not the case, then the committee proceeded. Now the hurdle is encountered when now it needs verification. Then we need to look into the shortlisting criteria. Perhaps, if I'm not mistaken, Section 9 of the NYDA Act, I'm just a second, Chair, I'm just opening. I think it's Section 9(4), which says that the candidate should have relevant knowledge, expertise, experience, or qualification. So there's relevant knowledge, expertise, and experience or qualification. So there's the experience part and the other part, which is or qualification. So which means we cannot hinge or leverage on one issue, because if that candidate have got experience, knowledge, or expertise, so the qualification is the other part on the issue of the matric certificate. Just on the third point on that issue of the matric certificate, we need to explore actually, which was advanced by another honorable member who spoke about whether there are any additional valid document or legitimate document that the candidate has submitted. So to check whether, even if that is a sort of a lip jump from the issue of the matric certificate, if he has got another document which shows actually has got a valid qualification. That is on the issue of the matric certificate. Then on the second part, if we take on the issue of the creditworthiness of the candidate, there we should actually, the act is clear. The disqualification is on Section 10 of the NYDA Act as amended. So which states that a person may not be appointed or continue to serve as a member if he or she is an unrehabilitated insolvent. I think the second part, okay, has been then one, convicted of any criminal offense and sentenced to imprisonment and without the option of a fine, or two, convicted and fined more than the prescribed amount for theft, fraud, forgery, perjury, an offense in connection with the promotion, formation, or management of a company and violation of the PFMA, or any offense involving dishonesty. Three, convicted of a gender-based violence and femicide-related offense. C, has been removed from an office of trust as a result of improper conduct, including sexual harassment, corruption, theft, or fraud. D, has been declared to be of unsound mind by a court. E, is placed under curatorship. F, failed to submit his or her annual financial disclosure in the prescribed form and manner without good cause or on more than one occasion. That is what is clearly expressed or stated in the Act. But in the past, the practice has been that actually when the candidates come for the interviews, they are made aware and made to answer on the issue of their credit report. That has been the practice, but the committee itself has to take a resolution because it won't assist if the rules change along the way. So hence, the committee takes a resolution, then it has the shortlisting criteria. If the committee then decide to divert, then that might cause actually legal challenges in future because the candidate will say, no, we relied on the advert, then we relied on the shortlisting criteria. So that is what we relied on or depend on. So if there are new developments that perhaps should have been foreseen from the onset, that if such circumstances or such situation arise along the way, what is the best way to tackle them? So that is what I can say. Thanks, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tembe. Can I ask Mr. Ndumizweni just to speak to us about the documents, please?
Thank you, Chair. I think I must start by stating that in fact, the meeting that we had with HR, we agreed that the focus will be on highest qualifications or qualification of each and every candidate. We did that because we wanted to save time, because if you submit, for an example, 15 qualifications, then the possibility was that they couldn't be able to finish on time. Now, coming to this specific matter of the certificate, I think I tried to indicate that the candidate did submit the statement of results, which may also be the statement of symbols. We've got a copy of that. But the challenge that we are having right now, in fact, let me also indicate that it is the highest qualification that the candidate claims to have. Now, the current situation that we're sitting with, which maybe within, we can always try to make another follow-up, is that the HR came back to us to say that what are the reasons, or what were the reasons that the candidate couldn't submit a valid copy or a copy of the valid certificate. And then the candidate responded to say that he's in the process of getting a copy, trying to get the reissued copy of the certificate, reprint, whatever. But then right now he's not in possession of the certificate. It is for that reason he submitted this statement. Then our HR came back to say, but if that is the situation, therefore it means that they are not able to assist the candidate, because the way they work, they require that a candidate must submit a copy of a valid certificate. So that is the situation, Chair. Thank you.
Baba?
Hello, Chair.
Oh, sorry, I thought I lost you for a second. My apologies.
Thank you, Chair. I'm done, Chair, unless there's...
Colleagues, can you hear me, or is it my connection that is unstable, or is it Mr. Ndumizweni's?
You are clear, Chair.
Thank you so much, Honorable Shabango. Colleagues, let me then say the following. I think in terms of HR, with regard to their inability to complete all of the verifications, I will write to them today to ask for a time frame in terms of them completing the work that needs to be done. I think on the issue of the matric certificate, we will see. We will also engage HR to see if we can still assist this candidate to get his documents verified. Honourable members, with regard to the credit record issue, I think Honourable Dr. Tembe's advice or his guidance that he just gave us now, firstly, none of the candidates before us or the candidates that we shortlisted have got criminal records, and none of them are unrehabilitated insolvents. So I think the committee then is clear in terms of a resolution that we will give all of these 4 candidates a fair chance. We will grant them an interview, and we will engage with them with regard to their credit record, if we so feel or so wish, and also on the issues of financial responsibility. So I think from my side, the resolution then is very clear. The committee would like for us to continue to interview these 4 candidates, to give them a fair chance to participate. We have ventilated the issues, and we will obviously then, during the interview process, do due diligence to ensure that the candidates that we finally recommend are individuals that are responsible, and of course that we have satisfied ourselves will be able to take on those fiduciary responsibilities. So our resolution is to proceed with all of the candidates that we have shortlisted. We will go back to HR to find a resolution around the matric certificate issue and also the timeframes for them to complete their work. Mr. Ntumizweni, I hope, honourable members, that captures what you have agreed upon. And if there's any other alternate view, I would allow that. But Mr. Ntumizweni, Ms. Kanyile also asked a question around the person. You reported that there was a person who did not signed online, but did not sign a hard copy or something to that effect in your report. She questioned whether that was finalized or not. Did you speak to that? Honourable Shabango?
Thank you, Chair. I'm sorry to interject after you have, I think you were ruling on the discussions that we had.
Yes, you can proceed,
on the matric certificate, I heard the responses from the other honourable members, and there's
Recording stopped.
Am I audible?
Recording in progress.
Can hear you, honourable.
Okay.
Yes, you're audible.
Yes. The issue of a matric certificate. If the HR just now it has been mentioned that the HR required a matric certificate on all the candidates that they are dealing with. One honourable member raised an issue that how did we go through with this candidate with the statement and not the certificate? Hence, we are where we are now discussing this issue. Now, we are saying, let's allow all the candidates, even this one without the matric, to go through. What will happen when we interview this candidate? Say the candidate becomes successful and there will be no matric certificate. We won't be able to again discuss this matter. In principle, if the advert was on a matric certificate, and if it's just the results, no, that's the highest qualification if I had very well. And if it's not available, why are we allowing this candidate to continue? Then when we are on the interviews, then we'll sit another challenge of discussing this candidate. For me, I don't know, you lose your certificate, then you just don't do anything about it until we get to this point. I don't know whether we're giving HR back to work on this on a person that was supposed to get her documents ready, his or her documents ready. I foresee a challenge where we'll get to the interviews and maybe even over the interviews with a candidate without a matric certificate. I strongly feel that if the advert was mentioning matric certificate, is matric certificate, not statement of results. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Honourable Shabango. Okay, honourable members, what I'm going to propose, I think we are all in agreement on the issue of the credit score. What I will do after this meeting, our advertisement said relevant experience. So we didn't say that a person must only, well, we didn't say a person should just rely on his matric certificate. We said other documents are also to be considered. So I will go after the meeting and verify if this person has got any other relevant documentation. And if the matric certificate is the only documentation that he's got or he or she's got that they can produce, and they're not, as we have known, so far have not produced that to us, then is it the ruling of honourable members, if there's no further documentation that can be submitted to us, that we exclude this candidate from the process going forward? I think in terms of... Yes, Honourable Matri?
No, my hand is up. I'll wait until you finish.
Okay. So I do believe, honourable members, that if there's no other documentation that he or she can provide to us, other than the matric certificate that is not there, then we include it as a resolution that we will exclude this person from the interview process. I hope that I have correctly captured what all honourable members then, but I think from a due diligence point of view, I do need to go back and give this candidate a final chance to submit, maybe within the next 48 hours, additional relevant qualifications or experience. And if that is not forthcoming and the matric certificate is not forthcoming, that we do then act on our resolution to exclude this person from the interview process. I hope I've captured that correctly. Honourable Matri?
Thank you very much, Chairperson. No, Chairperson, thank you. I'm a little bit covered now, especially by you and then with my previous speakers. The metric certificate is a bridge. All the additional certificates are said to be additionals because the highest standard is the metric. Then the others are the additional certificates. So if the candidate is failing to submit the hard copy, or else let me say like that, the hard copy, the other certificate should be attached to a metric certificate. Even now, Chairperson, there are people who have lost their jobs. There are teachers who used to say they are having the metric and then they moved upward maybe to different universities and they are charged. They are no longer working because they failed, or they told the panel or whosoever who was responsible for the interviews that they are having the certificate. If the certificate is not presented, I really concur with those ones that person can't go for an interview. Otherwise, we'll fail if the person can beat the others only to find out there was no certificate. So now it will be very difficult to reverse the process. That person failing to submit the certificate, Chairperson, no, if there's no certificate, should wait. He will get some chances later on. Thank you, Chairperson.
Okay, thank you so much, Honourable Matri. Before I give over to the Honourable Whip, I don't want us to belabor these points. I want us to have a clear resolution on the credit record issue and on this matric certificate issue. But let me hear Honourable Chalke Adonis, and then we'll wrap up.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I share the same sentiments as fellow colleagues as well, but one would also want to also just in terms of cautioning us, as we have been advised in terms of the legal prescribes that are in the NYDA Act, that speak to the criteria or the selection criteria of the NYDA Board. And I think what was stated there, if I'm correct, it's about 4 or 5 points, and one of them being the qualifications in terms of merits. Now, I want to find out if there is an exclusion based on the on not receiving this particular documentation for the matric results. Would this be, would we as a portfolio committee in terms of the resolution then we then take in this regard, would we have the proximity to do so, number one? Number two, would we not be infringing on the applicant's rights in terms of what has been prescribed in the NYDA, that they should have skills, knowledge, experience, etc.? Are they meeting those other criteria? Because I think how I interpreted it was that the qualification was an addition, but it was not to say that applicants must have a minimum of matric qualification. Perhaps I can just, Chair, if you can just clarify me on that part, if that was part of the prerequisites to say applicants must have a minimum qualification of matric. If not, I think then it would require further I think further discussions from your end, just to make sure that whatever resolution that we are then to take is in line with those prescribed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Honourable Chake Adonis. I think I've got a solution in that I just saw an email that the candidate wrote to Mr. Mdumizweni, and he indicates, and I will read it to the committee, and then I will proceed to give a proposal, and then I would like Dr. Tembe also just to listen carefully to our resolutions and just give guidance in terms of if they are legally sound. So the candidate says, greetings, sir. I hope this email finds you well. This is to explain that I've submitted a statement of symbols for my matric. I cannot find my Malusi certificate. It was lost during moving. I've undergone a process of applying for a reissue of the certificate from the Department of Basic Education. I can take an affidavit under oath to state this. I hope the statement of symbols is sufficient. We can also use my university admission as proof that I do have matric. I am studying at the following university with the following student number. Now, honourable colleagues, for this candidate to have applied to the university, he should have submitted his matric certificate. And I think it would be very easy for him to go back to the university and just ask for a copy of the documents that he submitted when he did his application. Surely the university should still have a copy then of his matric certificate. So I would then say, honourable members, I also hear the point that the Honourable Chake Adonis is raising, in that our advertisement didn't specifically say that you should hold a matric. It says you have to have, according to the Act as well, it states you should have the relevant skills or knowledge or expertise, which means in this case, if the applicant can prove to us that he's got relevant experience in youth development or social development, in law or human resources or other categories that we've listed in our criteria, the matric certificate is not necessarily the document that we must rely on. We want to see the other experience or relevant experience or expertise. But in this case, if this is the only document that he's got, which hopefully in his CV it's not, but in the case to bridge the issue of the matric certificate, I think we need to write back to the candidate and give him a time frame in which he should contact the university and ask for the documents or a copy of the documents that he submitted to the university, and then to furnish the committee with that documentation. I hope, Dr. Tembe, what do you think that would suffice, or do you think we're still at a crossroads here in terms of what needs to be done? I just need to make sure that we make sure the process is fair, but we also cannot bend the rules. And we have been asking for this documentation. I just think that if the matric was completed and the documents is with the university, he does state that he used those documents to apply to the university, then he should be able to retrieve them from there. Dr. Tembe?
Oh, yes.
Thanks, Chair and honourable members. I think that is the best available option under the circumstances, because if the university might be having it, because you won't be admitted without the matric certificate. Secondly, I think he himself has actually made an undertaking that he can even submit a sworn affidavit to that effect. So then perhaps, I don't know whether there's a subsequent document after the matric, because I think the issue that members were struggling here, whether the candidate does have a matric or not. So if then whether it's legitimate. So if there is a matric which is legitimate, perhaps he can request it from the university, make the sworn affidavit, but that is a tentative measure until perhaps a copy is seen or is presented before the committee. I think that is the best option that can be put for or tentatively made for the applicant in this case. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tembe. Honourable members, I want to conclude then. We will write back to the candidate just to ensure fairness in the process, to ask him to retrieve the documentation that he submitted to the university. We will give, today's Tuesday, we will give him up until Friday to complete his documentation that is required to the committee. Of course, if he cannot produce the matric certificate, in the advertisement, we did make an allocation where people can submit other documentation to prove that they've got the relevant experience and knowledge. And if he has not done that and not submitted the matric certificate by Friday, or the, as Dr. Tembe says, or even the, if he goes and does a statement that is commissioned under oath, if we don't receive those documents by Friday, then the resolution of the committee is that we will exclude him from the interview process. Honourable members, I will also write to HR to impress upon them that we are not happy with the fact that the screening processes have not been concluded, and that we want timeframes in that regard. And then with regards to the credit record, we have resolved as a committee that the 4 candidates that have got negative credit records will be considered. They will be given a fair chance to be interviewed and to participate in the process. And that if members so feel, that you will then engage with the candidates during the interview process around issues of financial responsibilities, and of course also that person's credit record, if you so feel you would want to do that. We will be sharing the information we have received on the candidates' credit records. We have received that information. And we will be sharing it with each member. But again, just with the POPI Act, just a caution to all members that, of course, it is sensitive information. It's not information that we can share with others. So we will make that available to all members before we go into the interview process, which will be at the end of February. Honourable members, are you happy with those resolutions? Are there any opposing views?
Thank you, Chair.
I'm hoping
clear.
I hope everybody is comfortable. Thank you, Honourable Mati. Honourable members, we are going to just quickly ask then Honourable Ms. Kashifa Abrams to please just give us her report on the questionnaire that we'll be circulating to the Basic Education Department ahead of our meeting with them. Honourable members, we will, of course, in one of our previous meetings, you will recall when we engaged with team-free sanitary pads. We had received a presentation from our department indicating, for example, that in the Free State, not a single sanitary pad has been distributed. At that point, we as a committee, of course, discussed these matters, but I also muted the fact that we could consider in the new year to have committee hearings on the sanitary dignity program. But in the meantime, we have expedited these meetings. We are bringing them forward, as you have seen on our program, and you've adopted our program, First Term program. We are bringing the meeting with basic education and social development forward so that we can zoom in on the issues of learner pregnancies, NGOs, and also on sanitary dignity. So we want to distribute a questionnaire to the Basic Education Department to solicit some information. I'm going to give over to you, Ms. Abrams, if you can just take us through that questionnaire that would also need the approval of members before it goes out.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'll increase the font size. So as Chairperson's indicated, the intention is to look at the sanitary dignity program and have an assessment of that. In our legacy report, the previous committee had done something similar. So they've engaged with all the provincial counterparts in terms of how the implementation with regards to sanitary dignity had happened during the 6th Parliament. We've developed 2 questionnaires. The first questionnaire would be to National Department of Basic Education and Social Development. And if a member would recall, the request to our department was to ask in which province basic education implements the sanitary dignity. And they told us 5 of the provinces do it through Department of Basic Education, and 4 provinces do it through social development. And hence the questionnaire would be to both social development and basic education. So for our committee meeting coming up in the next 3 weeks, it would be focused on the Department of Basic Education, but the questionnaire would be sent to both DBE as well as social development. What I will go through for members, have you received it via email? It's to highlight what would be covered in the questionnaire for the national departments, and then I'll follow through after this with the provincial departments. I think for question 1 and 2 and 3, it's to get a sense of within basic education and social development, who's responsible for the Sanity Dignity Program at a national level, and where is that located? So in which program or sub-program? Bearing in mind that national departments have responsibility over policy imperatives, responsible for ensuring that the respective law is implemented as well as the policy. And in this instance, it is the Sanity Dignity Framework that our Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities developed, but the expectation would be that basic education and social development would implement it. So hence the question 4 is to understand how does the National Department then of Basic Education ensure that this policy is implemented? What are the mechanisms? And is there any formal relationship between basic education and our department, as well as social development and the Department for Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities? And then between the Department of Social Development and Basic Education, it's also important for us to understand if there is an MOU in that regard, bearing in mind that the beneficiaries for the Sanity Dignity Program are learners within schools. So if social development is in certain provinces responsible, how do they ensure that schools within particular districts are ensuring that the relevant girls are receiving those dignity packs? So at the national level, we're wanting to hear and know what's the relationship between basic education and social development. I think importantly also is to understand from National Treasury what the reporting requirement is for basic education as well as social development, as there are conditional grants that would go to the provinces to ensure that the Sanity Dignity Program is implemented. So from a national level, we're asking basic education and social development, what do they have to do, be it at a quarter or annual basis, to report to National Treasury in terms of this conditional grant? If members think back, we are going into the budget vote now. In our budget vote, when we think of, for example, the NYDA and the CGE, we have one budget vote, and within the department, the money is received, but it's transferred to NYDA and CGE. So similarly, we're wanting to understand for basic education and social development, how is this money managed from Treasury to the provinces? And is Treasury expecting these national departments to report to them in that regard? In terms of the Sanity Dignity Program value chain, again, wanting to know what the role of the national department is. When it comes to SABS compliance, do they have a role? And how do they ensure that it's actually implemented within provinces? When it comes to the service providers, the expectation is for the Sanity Dignity Program to happen within province, the service providers should be either women-owned, youth-owned, or owned by persons with disabilities. So from a national level, what is DBE, Basic Education and Social Development, doing to ensure that the relevant provincial departments are actually adhering to that? And then are they aware of who the current existing service providers are within provinces? When it comes to beneficiaries, again, we're wanting to hear from the national department, do they actually have per annum the total number of beneficiaries that would be reached? And for social development, how would social development obtain that information? If again, the learners within schools, and what's the relationship between the education deciding and how they share that information with social development. From a national perspective, when it comes to beneficiaries, if they were told that the target is 500,000 beneficiaries, girls, how do they make sure that they actually reach that target within a given financial year? With the budget, again, to find out what the role of the department is in terms of the financial management. As it's a conditional grant, the money is just transferred to the provinces. The provinces will then utilize the money. And then from the provincial departments, we're wanting to hear, do these provincial departments then report back to national on the budget forecast and expenditure? And what is the expectation in terms of the reporting requirements? For the M&E process, does the National Department of Basic Education and Social Development have a role within social development? Who specifically is responsible for that? We are aware that there's a Sanitary Dignity Committee. Is there representation from basic education and social development at a national level around that? And then to outline what the M&E process is for the province, how often the information around monitoring and evaluation is obtained from the provincial departments, how it's collated, and what are the reporting requirements. And then overall, just to hear what some of the successes and key challenges are, if they're aware of any corruption, if there's any investigations, have any investigations taken place. So that covers the national departments. I'll now move on to the provincial departments. So the format for the provincial departments, that would be basic education and again social development, is similar to the questions outlined for national, but there's more detail. So again, instead of asking us which province, we're asking the name of the province and the key person responsible for that program and their position, where the Sanitary Dignity program is located. In terms of the value chain for sanitary dignity, specifically, we're looking at the products. Where are the products manufactured or are they procured? How do they ensure SABS compliance? Who are the current existing service providers? Are they women, youth, or persons with disability owned? What's the criteria for the appointment of the service provider? The period of the contract with the service provider? What was the cost of the tender? Where are the products stored? The process for delivery. For social development, how does the department's tender process and outcome work when the point of delivery resides with the Provincial Department of Education? I think this is particularly important for the provinces that do the sanitary dignity via social development. Because if the conditional grant goes to social development, they would have their own tender process, but the endpoint delivery is within education. So it's important to understand how that process works. Each province would then need to fill out and indicate all the service providers by gender, youth, and then disability. For the beneficiaries, we're asking about what the criteria would be for selection. For social development, we're asking within the provinces how they obtain that information on the number of beneficiaries, the schools and the districts. And how does social development ensure that the beneficiaries actually reached if education is then issuing the product? Again, we're asking social development within the province and basic education is if there's an MOU, what the nature of the MOU is, how often the beneficiaries receive these products, how many packets of pads they receive per beneficiary, the number of beneficiaries in terms of age, grade, district, if farm schools are targeted, special schools, and the target per annum. So again, they need to tabulate, give us the information within each district, the number of schools, the number of learners, and then per district, the number of beneficiaries for each grade, and then the total, the number of learners and the schools targeted per district, per quintile. In terms of the budget, we're asking very specifically for in terms of the MTSF allocation, what was allocated, how much was spent, how much are they spending on pads, the cost for logistics, and then to tabulate the information. For the monitoring and evaluation, we're asking who's responsible for that in the province. For DSD, where does that responsibility lie and what's the relation with basic education? Is there a sanitary dignity committee established? Who represents the committee from DSD? Who ensures SABS compliance? To outline the M&E process, to get an understanding of the key challenges and any issues pertaining to corruption and any updates with respect to investigations. Chairperson, that just gives an indication of, and members, what we intend sending out to both the National Department of Basic Education and Social Development, as well as the provincial counterparts. So in terms of our meetings, we're first going to be engaging with basic education and the provincial departments. And then, as indicated in the program, in March, we will focus on social development and the provincial departments. Thank you, Chairperson and members.
Thank you so much, Ms. Abrams, and I would like to thank you and your team for the hard work in preparing these documents. I really think, honourable members, this will really assist us in terms of extracting the information that we need from both the Basic Education Department as well as Social Development, so that we can get to the bottom of where some of the issues are with regards to the Sanitary Dignity Programme. And it will also help us to do better oversight and monitoring ourselves. But honourable members, that is the proposed questionnaire. I would like to know if honourable members would like to ask any questions or make any inputs on this document, or whether you are happy for us to circulate this in preparation of our meetings. Are you happy, honourable members? I don't see any hands. Okay. Safe to assume honourable members are okay. Honourable members,
yes,
we have... Yes, who?
No, thank you, Chairperson. Was still okay. Thanks. I appreciate.
Okay. Thank you, Honourable Matri. Honourable members, then that would be the end of our meeting for today. I would really like to thank all members for participating. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your robust engagements on all of the issues that we've tabled today. Again, I would like to apologize to honourable members that we were not ready to do the interviews in Johannesburg this week because of the issues around our budget. But please be assured that we'll make sure that once we get to our committee week at the end of February, that everything will be in place for us to have successful interviews. Honourable Spies, after this meeting, I will go and engage around a venue for next week, and we will then let members know whether the meeting will be on the Zoom platform or whether it will be an in-person meeting. Colleagues in our support team, please do circulate to Honourable Mkonto after this meeting the legacy report. Members, we did say that we will also see where in our program we can fit in, if possible, the higher education department to come and appear before us. It might mean that we would have to utilize a Friday, but that will also be discussed with honourable members. I will then also now, after this meeting, implement our resolutions around the NYDA, around those two issues, the matric certificates, as well as the credit records. And again, honourable members, thank you so much for today. I look forward to seeing you soon. And I look forward to us playing our role in holding the executive to account, and also other departments that we will be calling in our first term. So thank you, honourable members. Have a wonderful rest of your afternoon, and we will be in touch. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, honourable members. Chair.
Colleagues.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you so much, honourable colleagues.
Recording stopped.